Hey everyone, Carmen here.
Hi, ladies. Deidre here.
If you haven't met us yet, we are the co founders of Encore Empire, where we take the guesswork out of scaling your online business for results you can't get with any other coaching program. We work with our clients one on one to customize a program that best fits their needs. Now, today we're going to talk about overcoming resistance. There are many reasons why resistance shows up in our lives. Most of the time, we're avoiding doing something that we're overwhelmed with, something we don't like doing, or something that pushes us outside of our comfort zone. We all do this on some level. I'm sure you can relate. So it's important to identify what's causing you to resist doing the thing, whatever the thing is. And the funny thing about this is resistance can show up with the most small things that we have to do in our lifetime and big giant things. It really is an equal opportunity shower upper, right? It doesn't matter. You might have resistance to, doing a little thing, putting your socks away, whatever it is. And then you have resistance to doing the bigger things in your life. It doesn't matter, but it crops up all the time. And we all have to deal with it in some way or another. So once you identify what's causing you to resist doing the thing, you then have the starting point for making a plan to help you overcome your resistance. So we want to ask ourselves, is it avoidance? Are we just trying to avoid something because we'd rather do other things? It's really easy. Sometimes we keep ourselves busy and we think, well, my gosh, I was busy all day. I didn't have time to get to that thing. But if we really stop and take a look at what we're doing, we could sometimes see that all of that busyness was really just an avoidance tactic. So we need to find out, are we avoiding it and why? And then overwhelm. Overwhelm can happen depending on the size of the thing it is that you're resisting. A lot of times we overwhelm ourselves by imagining what could happen, what the outcome might be, but we really won't know unless we take action. So instead of sitting there and ruminating about what if this happens or what if that happens and imagining all these terrible things, and our brains can come up with all kinds of reasons why something isn't going to work or this thing might happen, and these kind of thoughts can stop us in our track. But we have to actually get into action to then see what's happening and be able to react in real time. And we will most likely find out that, guess what? It's not nearly what we thought it was. Our brains play tricks on us. So we have to make sure we don't fall into overwhelm. And then fear. Fear is a huge one, and we all face it. So you have to ask yourself, fear and overwhelm are a little bit the same. Overwhelm can cripple you, but the fear of doing something brand new and looking like a fool, like what are you afraid of? Let's identify what that is. I'm afraid of failing in front of someone. I'm afraid of looking like a fool. Excuse me. So find out, ask yourself, what is it that you're avoiding? What are you overwhelmed with? And what are you afraid of? And really dig deep to find out the answers to those so you can address them. Because unless we do, we can't address them. So you have to ask yourself, is my fear bigger than my desire for success? And am I willing to delay my success because I'm too afraid?
Yep. Those are some great thoughts to ponder. And for those of you watching us live, welcome. We are so excited that you're here. If you hear anything that resonates with you, please drop that in the comments. And if you have any questions or want to talk about anything in particular on where resistance shows up for you, we are here for you to work through all of this. And Carmen, I really, it really struck home when you said, we get resistance in the little things and the big things too. And we don't often think about that. And when you said about putting the socks away, I have to say guilty is charged right here because I have a thing about socks. Like I really don't like to put the socks away. So now I'll have to ask myself why that is.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of why, when you've identified the why, you've spent some time, really thinking about that. We have to get to the root of the problem, right? And we can't sometimes as entrepreneurs especially, we get into this thing of, well, we're just going to power our way through, right? Because we are ambitious, we're driven, we're determined to succeed, but you're just going to struggle through the whole thing, right? And it becomes just so difficult, and then you lose the joy in the journey. So really getting down to this why, um and figuring out the cause of the resistance, that is like So important. So once you have identified the whys, that's kind of the first step. So then what are we going to do about it? Well, then take a look at, is this a story that you're telling yourself and believing, or is it really true? Like, is it really a fact? A lot of times, when we, especially when it comes to the fear part of, we're afraid this might happen, we come up with like 15 things that could go wrong, instead of looking at what could go right. So really look at that story that you're telling yourself, and is it truly a fact? I know that I went through a money mindset class years ago, and there was, this fear around not having enough money. And they asked us the same question, what are you afraid of? Like, and when you kept digging down, it's like, well, I'm afraid I'm going to be homeless if I don't make enough money. And they're like, well, is that, a story that you're telling yourself, or is it really true? Have I ever been homeless? No. Now, I know it could happen, but is it likely that it's going to happen? No, it isn't likely. So we can go on and on about, all the things that could possibly go wrong. There could be, a tornado could tear our house down, the house could be on fire, all kinds of things. But those are really not what's true or likely. So we can tell ourselves all sorts of stories about what we need to do first. But then those stories only serve to increase your anxiety about the fact that we aren't doing what we need to do. And so this becomes the vicious cycle, right? Like, the more anxious you feel, the more you're going to resist. And the more resistance you feel, the more anxiety that you have. And so that's why we have to really stop this cycle, because it's a self-perpetuating cycle. So another thing to ask yourself is, are you prioritizing or procrastinating? And this goes back to what Carmen was saying. When we're putting something off, we're putting off doing something, or saying, oh, I'm just too busy, I just couldn't get that done. Well, is it really, and I have to say, I've done this in the past too. Like, I say, well, it's just not a priority right now. Like, there's other things that are much more important that have to get done. But is that really true? Or is it something that you're just using as an excuse to put other things ahead of it? And then that becomes procrastination. So, Carmen, what do you think about some other consequences of resistance? We've talked about a few of them. What are some others? Any come to mind?
To me, the biggest one is that you're putting off the rewards that you could receive by procrastinating. I mean, it's the fear, it's the things that are making you say, no, 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 what if, what if, that is all made up in our head. But the reality, 9 times out of 10, is way better than what we ever could imagine. So you're actually slowing yourself down. And if you can get agile with this and yourself and your own comments, your own habits, then you are going to be able to notice a big difference in moving the needle forward in your life and your business, right? Because you'll get to work through this stuff quicker. And that's why it's so important to identify what it is. So once you identify, you're like, okay, and by doing that too, you can start developing you start tracking your data, and you notice trends like, oh, I notice I always get fearful about this type of thing, or this one thing, this fear pops up a lot. And so when you're able to say fear, and the fear is because of X, and then you go further along in your life and something else comes up and you have the same fear and it's about because of the same type of thing, then you can go, okay, I need to work on my fear around this thing. Just like what you talked about. I mean, I loved your story. Like, I'm going to be homeless, and a tornado could come, the house could be on fire. I mean, all that stuff could happen, right? Anything could happen, but also anything good could happen. And our minds don't go there. It's because of our primitive brain that we sit there and we get stuck in the what bad could happen, because our brain's trying to keep us safe. So, yeah.
That's right. And this fear and anxiety, when it's left unchecked, it just magnifies in your mind, right? And it feeds the resistance. And all the avoidance, it is very unpleasant. And there's another really really awful side effect to this, and that it erodes your confidence. And I think that this shows up much more in the entrepreneurial space. I mean, it shows up in all areas of our life, but when we're entrepreneurs, we are risk takers. right? And we are trying to build something out of nothing. And so we really have to have the confidence in order to do this. And all this resistance and avoidance of not doing the thing, it erodes your confidence. You begin to feel like you aren't capable to do it. It's not something that you can be successful at. And this is all happening in your mind. It's not a true fact, it's a story. And you're just suffering through this whole entire time. So I want you to think of an example when this has happened. I'm sure it's happened to everyone at some point. So think about filing your taxes. Okay. Like, how do you feel about filing your taxes every year? Like, are you resistant, or doing your bookkeeping and getting all your receipts in order? Like, do you gladly, show up every week and go, "Ooh, I get to do my bookkeeping today"? Or you're like, "Oh, it's not a priority. I'm not going to do that right now." And so you wait. And then all of a sudden, tax time is here. And guess what? You've got this giant pile and this huge project. So you've been suffering through it this whole time, right? Because it's always in the back of your mind. Now, another example is that we see this a lot with the women that we work with in our coaching program, and people that we are talking to in our network, is the resistance to marketing, right? To not creating your content plan, for example. So you know that you need to create the plan, but you avoid it. So then what happens? You then are like scrambling around going, I gotta post something. And so you're just coming up with something, or you're stressing out about the whole thing. So, these are those things that sometimes we think that, well, it's just because we're not good at it, and that's why we resist. And that could be true, but a lot of times it really is more about the story that we're telling ourselves about it.
Definitely. And I love the fact that you say that you're suffering the entire time you're resisting. I think that's really important to call out, because we never think about it that way. We think we're putting the suffering off, right? We think that the suffering is going to happen when we do the thing that we're resisting, but really it's in the resistance that we're suffering, because we are creating all these stories. That's such a good point. So what we want to do then is come up with a plan on how to tackle this resistance that happens in all of our lives. It happens to everybody. So number one, we want to change the story, right? We just talked about all the ways that you could come up with any kind of story. The tornado is going to happen. The house is going to burn down. I'm going to be homeless. My dog ate my homework, all the things. So we want to change the story to, if anything can happen, then anything good can happen too. So I could, land 3 new clients. I could increase my prices and no one will blink an eye. I could, fill in the blank with something good, because those things could happen too. So let's change the story. And then we want to make a commitment to get into action. We want to remove any barriers. You don't have what you need to accomplish it, or you haven't blocked the time. So removing barriers means let's prepare, right? We want to make sure that whatever we're going to do to get into action, to complete this thing we're resisting, that we are setting ourselves up for success. So we don't want to go, well, I have to create my content plan now for this entire week. We don't want to do that on Sunday night at 11:59, right? Or Monday morning at 7:30. And we're like, oh my gosh, now I have to cram it in, and I've got another appointment, and I haven't set up myself well to be able to do this. We want to set ourselves up for success. So make the commitment to get into the action and set yourself up for success. And then another thing to do is get an accountability partner. I mean, if you keep running up against the same walls over and over again, that's a great sign that maybe having an accountability partner that says, hey, did you get that thing done? Or how can I support you? Or what are you feeling? Or tell me the fears that are cropping up, whatever that is, that can help you. And then, so use the resistance checklist when you start to feel it. Identify the why. Check, is the story true? And then how does the resistance seemingly serve you? Like we just talked about one way where we think we are putting off the misery till when, of doing that thing. We think doing it will create the misery, but it's really the resistance that's doing it. But what is the resistance doing? It's got to be feeding something in you. Is it feeding just your primitive brain that says, yes, you're fearful, you're better to be in your little comfort zone. Don't get out of your comfort zone. I mean, what is it doing? You want to look and really dive into, why are these behaviors cropping up? Why are these beliefs cropping up? And how can I flip the script on all of it?
That's right. Yep. So that's you might want to take a note of this. The resistance checklist. So it's 3 things, and it's identifying your why. Why is it happening? Checking the story, and is it true? And how does the resistance serve you? Which we know logically it doesn't, but like how does it seem to be serving you? And then let's flip the script. So if you can turn it around. Um, and there's a comment here, changing my story to if anything can happen, it has to be good. That's exactly it. That is something that you can use and, post that everywhere and, say that back to yourself, because that is exactly what it is. You can change your story to anything.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to accountability partners, sometimes we can have friends and family, but typically not, because they love us. And not that other people don't love you, but they love you in a different way and they want to protect you, right? They're kind of like your primitive brain. So they don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see you, struggling through anything. So they may not be the best. So, find a business accountability partner. That is really, really key. And that is something that we help our clients with every single day. That's one of the top reasons if you ask any of our clients, like what is the benefit of working with business coaches and us, it is because you have that accountability. You have someone who cares about you and wants the best for you. And we help you be accountable, and we help you dig down into these reasons when you can't figure them out. So if you would like to have guides on the side to help you overcome resistance and all the things that crop up in your business, we work side by side with our clients in the Encore Business Incubator program to help them achieve the success they desire. And if that's something that you would like to have, we invite you to schedule a complimentary consultation call to find out if our program is right for you. And we will put the link below this video. And you can also go to encoreempire.com/consult.
That's right.
And if you guys have any questions, pop them in now. You guys on the replay, we appreciate you. And if you have questions or you have aha moments, please put those in the comments below. That helps us know what's resonating with you, and we can keep the conversation going.
That's right. Yep, I don't see any questions, so it looks like we're good. So we want to remind everyone too that this week we have a double header of live learning. And so Thursday we have a special guest star, featured speaker, Debbie Starr, and she's going to be coming on. We'll be doing it at a different time. So mark this on your calendar. It's going to be 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. We will be going live, and those events have been scheduled. So if you're on LinkedIn, you should see that. And if you're in our Facebook group, you should also see that. So we hope to see you there. She's going to cover the secret sauce to scaling your business. So that's going to be a really good one.
All right, ladies, we'll see you on Thursday.
All right. Bye-bye.